Chris Lee and Blayne Gilmer of Southeastern 14. We are previewing the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss and Mississippi State. The Rebels will be hosting that one. You can check that out 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving. Boy, Blayne, can't wait to see this one. This is a very even matchup between two teams that had very different weeks last week. Ole Miss had its shot at a national title blown in the final minute of the Alabama game when Brian Branch got his hands on a pass, knocked it away. You wondered if the Rebels would maybe go to Arkansas and pun mildly intended lay an egg in that game. They did, although they gained, I think, over 700 yards. So it was that. I think Ole Miss had 3 touchdowns wiped off the board. Mississippi State wiped the field with East Tennessee State. Not a big shock in that one. State's played some heartbreaking games at times. This one always gets spicy, and this one could be a classic, I think.
I mean, this game a few years ago is the reason that both of these coaches are here, right? With the whole dog peeing on the goalpost type post that they had, and that's why Matt Luke's no longer there. That's why Lane Kiffin's out, the head coach at Ole Miss, and it's all interesting to see how things play out
around the world.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy how it turns out. But listen, if you'd have told me that both Quinshawn Judkins and Zach Evans would have over 200 yards rushing against Arkansas, I would have said, well, they just splattered them like South Carolina did Tennessee this past week. But 3 turnovers, Chris, that'll hurt you. A couple fumbles and an interception, and as you mentioned, some touchdowns called back. So unforced errors, some undisciplined football, and it's incumbent upon Mississippi State to try to refocus after just blowing out East Tennessee State. They kind of got recharged a little bit. That Georgia game a couple weeks ago, they actually had momentum right around half, and then the defense just wasn't able to kind of keep things up and keep Georgia from scoring. And Georgia ran the ball well in that game, so Lane Kiffin and company are gonna. That's their calling card. Jackson Dart still not playing to the standard that he really needs to be able to put Ole Miss over the top when they at times where they just can't run the ball or certain key situations. So it's going to be interesting to see in the last contest here.
Okay, when State's got the ball, Bulldogs averaging 33 and a half points a game, rather. Ole Miss giving up 24.2. State's lost 8 fumbles and 6 picks. Ole Miss has recovered 6 fumbles and had 6 interceptions. Ole Miss 29 sacks. That's a pretty good number. State's given up 22. So per rush play, and remember, sacks count as passing plays. State is actually rushing the ball 4.9 yards a carry. Ole Miss giving up 5.1. State averaging 8.5 a pass play. I don't think that's right. And Ole Miss giving up 5.7. Anyway, we know what State wants to do. It's just quick, short passes. It runs better than people think. How are we feeling about this side here?
Like you said, the quick, short passing game, it's basically an extension of the run game, right? So now that's how Mississippi State is able to navigate things offensively. They try to keep people off balance and make you the in the air raid. It goes all the way down to the high school level now, Chris. Everybody's running the air raid after Hal Mummy and Mike Leach made it famous years ago. And the whole verbiage is you got to defend all 53 1/3, every blade of grass, all that kind of stuff. And they're going to try to spread Ole Miss out and make them do that, of course. I think Ole Miss at times this year has been feast or famine. Are they able to create havoc up front? Or are they not? Because they haven't tackled the best all the time. So, look for Mike Leach to try to get the ball out in space. Will Rogers, I believe, Chris, you would probably know better than I. He just keeps climbing each week up these record boards with SEC marks. So he's probably playing for some milestones out there, whether it's passing yardage, passing touchdowns, all those kind of things as they go forward. So a lot of personal pride on the line in this matchup, as neither one is playing for a spot in Atlanta. Neither one's playing for, college football playoff implications. But the Egg Bowl, always brings out, always brings out a little hate, always brings out a little animosity in this, as you said. So I know it's going to matter a lot to Will Rogers. And I think one thing Will Rogers is going to want to do in this one, Chris, is kind of shake the stigma that Mississippi State can't do it on the road. Like they only play well at home. He's talented. He can make all the throws, but they have to be able to run the ball a little bit against Ole Miss. And that's been a struggle for Ole Miss's defense is stopping the run at different points this year. So I'm curious to see whether they can get those the two running backs going for Mississippi State, and how does Ole Miss's defense respond? Because you mentioned that they offensively put up 703 yards. Well, defensively, Chris, against Arkansas, they gave up 503 yards. Okay. And they gave up 335 yards rushing. So I know that Mississippi State wants to throw it all over the short passes. Can they get the run game going a little bit? Because I think it's there to take advantage of against this Ole Miss defense.
Two things. State has beaten Arizona on the road. Second thing is the pass play. State is averaging 5.9 a pass play. I didn't think that looked right. It was a rough day for the research department. I am the research department.
I didn't say they hadn't beat anybody on the road. I just said they've struggled.
No, I didn't say you did. I just wanted to clarify.
They've struggled much more on the road than they have at Starkville. So.
Yeah, but the big thing, that the passing yardage for State, and it's an impressive number, but just keep in mind that is kind of a volume thing.
Yeah.
Before we flip the matchup here, let's talk about our presenting sponsor, Stakes. You can predict sports better than the crowd for a chance to win NFTs. With Stakes, players can cement their sports predictions against friends, other fans, and influencers forever. Don't let your sports genius go overlooked. Join Stakes and get the best predictions captured in the moment. Head to playwithstakes.com/14. Use our invite code Southeastern14. Get a double welcome bonus. It's a predictions app, not a betting app. It is free to join, free to play. You can win stuff. You can support the people who support us. So go to Stakes today. Have some fun and help us out. When the Rebels have the ball, Ole Miss is averaging 35.3 points a game. The Rebels are in the turnover department. They've lost 8 fumbles, 9 picks. State has picked 14 passes, which I think leads the league, and recovered 6 fumbles. And remember, we've said this many times, State can not only turn you over, but they can take it back. State has 22 sacks. I think Ole Miss has only given up 12. Ole Miss got a really good offensive line. Rushing plays, Ole Miss is averaging 6.0. State giving up 5.0 and has really had trouble at times. Ole Miss averaging 7.6 per pass play. State giving up a really nice 5.6. Look, Ole Miss is going to want to run the ball. It's got Evans and Judkins and Dart can run. I think that's what Ole Miss is going to do. It's going to pound it and pound it and pound it some more, which keeps State's offense off the field. And if State can stop it, that can be a game changer. But I don't see anything to suggest that's going to happen based on the way State has played some of its conference games.
Yeah, I will say this. At times, State is able to frustrate people because of what they do up front. There are certain times where they're able to stall people up because they use so many stunts and games up front with their defensive line. But when you're doing that, Chris, and a lot of times when you run some kind of maybe a run blitz, or you basically for a lack of a better terminology, you guess wrong in terms of what gap you're going and you're not sound, then you can also get some busted on you as well. And we know that Quinshon Judkins and Zach Evans are capable of that. Think about this. If Zach Evans has a big game, if he rushes for 101 yards in this game, in the regular season, Ole Miss could have 2 1,000-yard rushers. on the
Wow.
year if they do that.
When's the last time that happened in the SEC? Probably Auburn at some point.
Or maybe Georgia, but I don't remember if it was Sony Michel and Nick Chubb may have done that together as well. I'm not certain of a couple of those guys, but man, it is just crazy to think that think about this, Chris. Quinshot Judkins was playing high school football this time last year, and he is just eviscerating SEC defenses. A man amongst boys, 6 yards a carry as a freshman, 16 touchdowns. So it is interesting. There's a reason that Lane Kiffin was sitting out in that cold, rainy bleacher by himself in Alabama watching his high school football game. He knew what kind of player he'd be getting there. So can the unique style of Zach Arnett's defense, how they create a lot of movement, sometimes they go to that odd stack look and really, for lack of a better term, like I said, they try to basically guess right with doing some games and stunts and trying to hit those gaps a certain way. So can they create enough lost yardage plays early on to put Jackson Dart in uncomfortable situations? Because we've seen, Chris, when you take away the threat of the run, as Alabama was able to do in red zone situations and create some obvious passing downs, Jackson Dart is just nowhere near as comfortable. He looks to a lot of time get on one read, and if he comes off of it, he's looking to pull it down and run. So keeping quarterback contained will be important as well. But Emmanuel Forbes, how about this? He got his 6th pick 6 last week. 6th pick 6 last week. So unbelievable for Mississippi State. Emmanuel Forbes, listen, Jackson Dart better go the other way because he's been errant some this year, and Emmanuel Forbes will take it to the house on you. So I'm fascinated to see how Zach Arnett's defense, who I think, honestly, I didn't believe Zach Arnett would still be around at Mississippi State because I think he's been that good in terms of scheming up and getting things going. He's going to end up being a head coach somewhere someday. So Zach Arnett's defensive prowess and defensive mind versus the offensive genius that is Lane Kiffin.
Okay, a few things before we wrap it up. State is getting penalized 63 yards game, Ole Miss 66. FEI special teams rankings, which usually lag a week, and they have lagged a week in this case. So this is through 10 games. FEI ranks State 7th in special teams nationally. They've been really good all year. Ole Miss 61st, so about average. And strength of schedule, this is an average of FPI and Sagarin. State is 10th nationally. We've talked all year about how tough that slate is. Ole Miss 41. The Rebels, of course, had an easy September, and it's getting later in the season. Wins aren't coming as easily. So I think you've got to take some of the stats in context. Okay, the over-under in this one, 63.5. Based on what the teams have given up, that should be closer to 58.5 for whatever that's worth. You got a predicted final based on the spread and on the over-under of 33-30 in Ole Miss's favor. Boy, I think I like Ole Miss to cover, and I think I like the over, but my goodness, I don't think that I would. If I had to pick one, and we're not professional bettors, don't want to be, I think the over is what I would take, and Ole Miss to cover, but I think I feel better about the first than the second.
Yeah, I agree. I think the over is something definitely to look at here. I think there'll be a lot of points scored in this one. You have to feel like, just from a talent level, that overall, even how much admiration I have for Zach Arnett and his scheme defensively, I have that much more faith in Lane Kiffin's scheme. And I know that they struggled last week against a similar scheme. Barry Odom and company do a lot of things similarly to Mississippi State. Sometimes they can go to a stack look. They can use 6 DBs at times, all these creative things. But ultimately, I think Lane Kiffin, having Quinshot Judkins and Zach Evans at his disposal, and being able to dial up different ways to get them in space and just keep pounding the rock, like you said, Chris, I think that they end up winning and covering as well.
Okay, for Blayne Gilbert, I'm Chris Lee. Thank you for watching our channel. We are going to have a live stream on Wednesday night where we'll probably talk more about this game, update you on injuries, anything like that of significance. Best way to catch that, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. We got a lot of basketball content we've been pumping out too, and more to come. So you don't want to miss that either. For Blayne Gilmer, I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14 presented by Steaks, and we'll see you again soon.